So, Caitlin Clark just dropped an Instagram story, and instantly the speculation caught fire. Some fans saw it as a comeback teaser, a quiet signal that maybe, just maybe, she'd be back in time for a deeper playoff push. Others read it differently, as pure frustration. A subtle shot aimed at the Fever organization for shelving her season before she was ready. But the loudest reaction? A wave of voices, both fans and analysts, saying this is it. This is Caitlin's moment to skip the downtime entirely and step straight into Unrivaled. That idea spread like wildfire. After being forced to sit for months, the thought of her craving competitive minutes makes sense. And to be fair, there are plenty of reasons why people could see her doing it, and why so many want her to. But here's the truth. No way. Not this time. She's not making that move. And the reason why, the one thing that makes it clear she's choosing a different path, has been right in front of us all along. This is a short breakdown, so stick around until the end. You'll see why skipping Unrivaled isn't just the right call. It's a smarter, more exciting one first, though. Smash that like button if you believe Caitlin Clark will touch the court again before the 2026 WNBA season.
Now, how could an injury like this be prevented? Believe it or not, one way could actually be playing in Unrivaled. And not because Unrivaled is fun to watch, just because Unrivaled is an actual development league, and it could get her into game shape so that when she does go into the WNBA, there isn't as much of like a shock about getting in and playing against all the competitors, because, she's definitely a target out there.
On the surface, the Unrivaled idea makes a lot of sense. There's no scenario where Caitlin Clark heads into next season, whenever that actually begins, completely cold, 8 or 9 months without competitive basketball. That's not realistic. Sure, last year's extended break may have helped her mentally reset, but physically, from conditioning to rhythm, she's gonna need live action. And Unrivaled does check plenty of boxes. It's short-term, centralized in one location, and runs just a few months. On top of that, the payout potential is huge, especially now, after Unrivaled secured a jaw-dropping $340 million valuation in its Series B funding round. That's not small-time money. That's, we're here to make a splash money. And with that kind of capital,
now, maybe they didn't have it last year, but now they have deep enough pockets. They have a well that they could go to, reach in that well, pull out a big bag of money, and finally approach the big dog with a real contract. Finally approach the big dog with a real offer. Yeah, that 1 million, 2 million, 5%. That's nothing compared to what they're going to offer CC now.
On the surface, the Unrivaled option really does look tempting. Think about it. There's no version of Caitlin Clark going into next season completely cold. We're talking 8, maybe 9 months without competitive basketball. That just doesn't work at her level. Last year, the long break may have helped her mentally reset, but physically, from a conditioning standpoint, from a rhythm standpoint, she's gonna need game reps somewhere. And Unrivaled checks a lot of boxes. It's short-term. It's all in one location. It runs just a few months. And the payout could be massive. Especially now, with Unrivaled securing a $340 million Series B valuation. That's not chump change. That's where we're ready to make a splash money. With that kind of war chest, it's easy to imagine them trying to back the truck up for Caitlin Clark. And honestly, if there's no CBA in place, I absolutely think they'd make a play. Imagine the scenario. Caitlin signs on, her impact takes over, and suddenly ratings go through the roof. Sponsors rush in. Revenues explode. Unrivaled starts looking like $1 billion league overnight. And if they ever flip to 5-on-5, suddenly they could be seen as a legitimate competitor to the WNBA. Don't forget, analysts already estimated Caitlin Clark alone was worth $1 billion to the WNBA this season if she'd stayed healthy. $1 billion. That's one player. And right now, the WNBA as a whole is valued at just $3.5 billion. Numbers that only reach that level because Caitlin's arrival doubled franchise values across the board is, oh yeah. The vision of Caitlin in Unrivaled is a powerful one. Packed arenas instead of last year's bubble look. A massive payday. Equity stakes. And let's not forget, she already turned down millions from Ice Cube's Big Three. So the number here would have to be enormous. But here's where the fantasy stops. As tempting as it all sounds, Caitlin Clark is not going to play Unrivaled. And here's why. First, the format. It's 3-on-3, and that setup is brutal on the body. Last season, we saw players dropping with injuries left and right. Some teams even had to forfeit, because they literally didn't have enough healthy bodies. Sure, it builds cardio, but the injury risk is through the roof. Why would Caitlyn gamble her long-term career on that? Second, the competition. This isn't some friendly off-season run. It's the same cast of players who rough her up every week in the WNBA. You think they're going to suddenly protect Caitlyn just because they have equity in the league? Not a chance. Third, the CBA mess. Make no mistake, Unrivaled is part of those negotiations. The WNBA does not want players defecting there. And the awkward twist? Breanna Stewart and Afiza Collier are running Unrivaled, while also sitting at the bargaining table as leaders of the Players' Union. That's a massive conflict of interest. Caitlyn wants no part of that circus. Fourth, the brand. Caitlyn Clark's brand is prestige, championships, playing at the highest level. No gimmicks, no sideshows. She already turned down a 3-on-3 Olympic roster spot. The Olympics, the biggest stage in sports, because the format didn't fit her. People said it was fatigue from her non-stop grind from college to pros. But let's be honest. If she'd been offered a 5-on-5 Team USA slot, she would have taken it in a heartbeat. She doesn't want gimmicks. She doesn't want dilution. And that's exactly what Unrivaled would do to her brand. So where does that leave us? This is where the real story gets interesting. Because if you follow the branding trail, you see what Caitlyn Clark is actually more likely to do instead. Let's talk about Nike. Finally, Nike rolled out her signature logo, and all signs point to a full signature shoe launch in May 2026. Timed perfectly with the WNBA season tip-off. Now, I haven't loved how slow Nike has been here. They clearly waited to let Aya Wilson.
I still think the Caitlyn Clark Tour, the Caitlyn Clark World Tour, might be the best option. As in, she plays 5v5, she brings a team of 12 WNBA players. They do 2 3-week tours, which means they might get in 3 weeks, 21 days. They play 6 games. They play a game every 3 days in different cities around Europe, and then they take a break and they do a tour of Australia and China. They play against all the top EuroLeague teams. They play against all the top teams in the NBL and all the top teams in the WCBA.
This next angle is even more niche, even more on brand. Something Caitlyn Clark could completely own and control. And if she did it, her brand would rise to an entirely new level. Because let's be honest, it's all anyone would talk about. Remember that preseason game when Caitlyn squared off against a Brazilian team? It was just an exhibition, but 1.3 million people tuned in. That's the Caitlyn effect. People will line up, pay real money, and stream worldwide just to see her play, even when nothing is officially at stake. But that's the point. She doesn't need Unrivaled. She doesn't even need Europe if she doesn't want it. Caitlyn Clark has enough brand equity to create her own lane, even if that means just a handful of exhibition games, her games on her terms, without the grind of full overseas season. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, her decisions, her brand strategy, and the facts right in front of us, the Unrivaled fantasy stops here. It's not happening. But now I want to hear from you. Do you think Caitlyn might shock us anyway, or did I miss something? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Either way, one thing feels certain.